Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Quilters Guild Collection Gallery. We've got another one of our artist talks now, so we're very thrilled to welcome Russell, who's going to talk to us about his piece, Lucky, 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 which is another new acquisition for our collection. So I'm going to hand over now to Russell. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello. Thanks for coming. So, yeah, Lucky, Lucky, Lucky. I made this quilt during the lockdown, but it was an idea that I wanted to make for a long time before that. As a child, I was a massive fan of Kylie Minogue. Still am, I suppose. But it was my, that turning point of being around about 11, where I was sort of becoming a proper human being, and it was my first thing that I saw out as an interest that wasn't given to me by my mother or relatives or whatever. So it was a big deal, and all my family were like, if Kylie's on telly, it's like, oh, call Russell. So I had this t-shirt, not this t-shirt, but a t-shirt, very similar, one of those retro printed ones that I was obsessed with, and I wore it till it fell apart. And I occasionally think of this t-shirt. With my quilting, I like to use, just about everything is used secondhand. And I thought, oh, I'd love to have that t-shirt to make into a quilt, and that's where it all began. And when I start a quilt, I will often just go through my stash of things and until an idea comes out, and some fabrics that I like together. They're sometimes a bit incongruent, but I quite like that. And so when I was pulling out fabrics and I had this thing in my head about this t-shirt, I sort of started to think the story that I basically said there about coming to see this Kylie concert in the Birmingham NEC, I might add, in 1990. We would go and visit my grandmother every Easter or a couple of times a year in Shrewsbury. So I knew, even at a young age, that it was quite close. So I sort of worked out this plan to get my mum to buy these tickets, and off we went. And I just thought of this idea of memories of my grand's house, which was a grandmother's house, an old lady's house, with the contrast of the interior of her house and my own sort of late 80s, early 90s bedroom with my love of Kylie Minogue. So while we were in lockdown, as many people, I was shopping online, and I found this vintage t-shirt on eBay. And I was very specific about not buying a newly printed one. It had to be a vintage one. So it's a child's t-shirt, obviously, which was perfect. So I had to wait for a couple of weeks for it to arrive, obviously. So I just had all these other fabrics that I'd sort of got together, and I actually ended up taking off a lot of the more chintzy, sort of flowery ones, just through personal choice and a process of elimination. And the sort of doily lace thing was very much, my grand's house was covered in them. She loved gingham, so that was included. This was actually a thing I kept to scrap for years. I used to do a lot of painting, and I'd literally been wiping the brushes on that. And I just like those colours. I like the smears. And so it just came together. And as I say, I took lots of bits off, smaller bits, because I quite liked the sort of 80s teenage bedroom kind of vibes of the stripes, and placed it all together. The dots, I have a mild obsession with dots, always have done, and I really like to use them. They're sort of quite democratic. They can take a sort of messier composition, and it's like the top layer that brings it together, I feel. So they were added, and then I had the debate about whether to do them like properly appliqued or just do them raw, but I like the little raw edges on it, because it sort of went with the rawness of the paint up there. Usually when I'm quilting, I don't do very dense stitching. It's usually quite far apart. But because we were in lockdown and there was absolutely nothing else to do, I went for it, and for the first time I'd actually quilted the whole thing. Well, not through the dots, which took ages, but it passed a few weeks. I'm not the best at doing small stitches. I'm happy to admit that. I like the sort of messy randomness of it. So I would just sit and take a section and just do a section every, I don't know, few a day or whatever, and then bring it together. while I was putting it together, I did cut out the letters, the lucky, lucky, lucky. I keep meaning to add more graphics and more lettering to my quilts because I like it on other people's, but I never quite do it. So I did it for this because also it brought in the Talking About Kylie, and it made it a great title. So yeah, that was it really. I love hazard stripes as well. I'm often photographing random hazard stripes in the street and on carpets. So that was just added to sort of, I don't know, bring it alive. And that's it, really.
How many quilts have you made?
How many quilts have I made? I guess I've been quilting for, about a decade, so I've made quite a few. I've got 3 here today. Actually, I don't know if anybody knows, but I won the Sustainable Quilt thing. Thanks very much. Which was a total shock to me. But it's just around the corner there if you want to go and have a look at it. And you'll see that my stitches are really far apart and not as dense as that. But yeah, I made a lot over the years. I've got a stack at home that occasionally they get changed and put up. So. And occasionally people buy them, which is nice.
How did you get into quilting in the first place?
I have a background in costume making and sort of props, set design and stuff. And so over the years I collected a lot of fabrics and things. And I also love clothes, and I had a lot of vintage clothes that didn't necessarily fit me, but I didn't have the heart to throw out or get rid of. So about a decade ago, I just started penning them onto things and sort of put them on hangers and hang them up just to display them. And it developed into making collages, basically. And I didn't really know the whole conversation. Is it a blanket? Is it a quilt? Is it this? I didn't know the jargon. I still don't know a lot of the jargon because I'm very I do my work at home. I don't really have many close friends that are quilters. So I kind of develop in my own little petri dish of making it up and looking on YouTube occasionally. But it was really just a development of tossing fabrics about and enjoying vintage things, really. Yeah.
It's nice to see that you've done it and you're not necessarily sticking to the rules,
Yep.
but you're actually enjoying them.
Well, sometimes it's a benefit. If you don't know the rules, you can't follow them. So that's exactly what I did. And there's lots of people I follow on Instagram that obviously I take ideas from. So I almost try not to learn too many things because then it's like a punk ethic. If you keep doing something often, you get better at it. But I almost don't want to get too good at it because I quite like things to be raw. So sometimes I have to backtrack, and I know I'm doing it wrong, but let's push forward. And yeah. Thanks for coming, everybody. Does anyone have questions? Or?
Are there any other questions? No, well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for talking about this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on your win.
Thanks.